Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Notes from the Pastor Cave. We are just kind of getting started in the book of Genesis, and I just get the feeling that this is going to go on for a very long time because I am still not even halfway through chapter 1, and this is the fourth video. We all have to deal with difficulty and tragedy in our lives. And I just want to say that these headphones I'm using are actually broken. And the reason, and I paid really good money at Five Below for these. Okay, so you give you an idea of just how much money I spent because I spent it at Five Below. So it looks like down the road is going to have to be a new pair of headphones for me. Okay, and it's kind of strange that they broke because I don't even have a large head. I actually have kind of a small head. And if you look at me, I look kind of bizarre because I have this body that's much bigger than my head, as if someone deflated me somewhere along the way. So really, my headphones should not have broken, but it might be because they were cheap headphones from Five Below. It's just the possibility just kind of exists there. Okay, so we have been talking about Genesis chapter 1. And we have been talking about this idea of light and day. And I want to move beyond that because we have the rest of creation that's taking place after God sets the sun and the moon into place and begins this cycle that we understand as the 24-hour day. Okay? Before that, all bets are off as to how long a day is, okay? Because you don't know, and neither do I, okay? But now that the sun and the moon are in place, we understand that there's the process of a 24-hour day is beginning to take place. God is working within His own construct, okay? So if he wants every lizard to come forth in 27 minutes, he can do that. Okay, just whatever he wants. We all have that mosquito question for when we stand before God someday. I get that, and a lot of you are also going to be asking questions about things like spiders. And snakes, by the way, but I digress. So going beyond that, we have the water swarming with living creatures. The birds come forth. So all of these critters that we understand, and everyone is described as according to its kind, and we would understand that as in modern science, we'd understand that as species. Okay, so we understand that everything in the horse family descends from this single idea of horseness, this single species. From that, we get the zebras, and we get the donkeys, and we get the horses, and things like that. Kind of much the same way that we have camelids, right? So we have from the camelid family, we have camels, one hump and two hump, and then we have guanacos, and the descendant of guanacos. The guanacos have two descendants, and that's llamas and alpacas. Okay, and I'm probably missing something else too, but that's what I know of the camelid family. So camels and alpacas, as much as alpacas are ridiculously cute and camels are not, they actually come from the same family. Okay, so all of that is taking place. All of that is happening. He brings forth the living creatures, livestock, which of course becomes very important for humanity. And then in verse 26, he says this: Then God said, "Let us," definite word there, "let us make man in our image." Okay. So now we have God is creating all these things, and what he's very obviously doing is that he's creating a foundation, or he's creating a framework for this last creation to live in. Okay, and so it's let us make man in our image, in our likeness. All right, so we have the not the first hint. Actually, the first hint. The first hint is right in the first couple of verses of Genesis, that God exists in persons. And as I said, there are certain problems that are, when we begin to understand a little bit, because we'll never get it, but when we begin to understand a little bit this idea of a Trinity, of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, there are actually several problems that are solved by that. Okay, if God is just a single entity in and of himself, without any persons within that entity, okay, and God has always been love, for instance, because God is completely consistent. So let's just take one of the personalities, parts of God, his love. Okay. If God has always loved, but there was nothing else, what does he love? Who does he love? Right? But when we begin to understand a little bit the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, existent eternally, then we understand that there is love within the Godhead, and it can have an object. Okay. So, here's another one. All right. We understand that God speaks. God always speaks. God is a speaking God. Okay. Well, if he does not speak within the Trinity, then who does he speak to? There's nothing there. Okay. So a God has always been a God of word. If there's nothing else but just this, what we call monadic God, then who does God speak to? Okay. But within a Trinity, then God can be speaking to himself within the confines of that Trinity. So, but I'm way out there, but it's just, that's one of my fun little pet ideas, pet thoughts. But he's making man in his image and in his likeness. And one of the things, there's an older writer that I never hear anything about him anymore, but he's one of these guys. I read several of his books, and he does a really great job of picking this apart. And the Hebrew word here, using image and likeness, is kind of the idea of perfect reflection. All right, so and here's this example is not my example. This is an example from a book that I read. Okay, but think about a bear walking through the Garden of Eden. Okay, so the only two humans there are Adam and Eve. Okay, both made in the likeness of God, the image and the likeness of God. Okay, so there's a bear walking along, and we have to assume, for the sake of the metaphor, for the sake of the story here, we have to assume that the bear can think like this and talk like this. Okay, so the bear's walking along, and he sees Adam. Okay, the way this Hebrew word, the bear comes along, he sees Adam, and he goes, "Oh, hi God. Oh wait, I'm sorry. It's just Adam." Okay, that's the idea that this thought of image and likeness conveys. That to the rest of creation, Adam and Eve look like God. Okay, it's that, the next time you're thinking lowly of yourself, the next time you're thinking that you're trash and that you're a nobody, okay, remember that you are made in the image and likeness of God. Now, there are some things that have happened since then that have been kind of messy, and we'll get into that on down the road, okay? So God makes man, okay, humanity. God makes humanity in his image, in his likeness, his being Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, okay? And then he says this, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over the livestock and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Okay? So right away, God is establishing that he is not only going to make man in his image, in his likeness, so that he's like a perfect mirror image, so that you can actually mistake, for a second you can go, oh, that's God. Oh no, wait a minute, that's just Adam. Okay, it's supposed to be that much of a representation. Okay, and when we understand the fall later on, we understand that that's the high height that humanity falls from. Okay, but now there is an understanding immediately of what is going to be part of what these humans are supposed to do on the earth. God's not just creating them, so that they can play pinochle all day. Okay, here is the reasoning here is that these images of God, these likenesses of the Creator himself, are going to become stewards over the rest of this creation. And it's really important to understand this stewardship, okay? Because stewardship does not mean use it all up and destroy it. And stewardship also does not mean never touch it and don't do anything with it. Okay, and again, we have the battle now, between very often between followers of Christ and environmentalists, and that battle was never supposed to be. Okay, because we really are supposed to have the same goal, but for different reasons. Okay, my goal in being the environmentalist that I am, and I do consider myself to be an environmentalist, not the same definition of a secular environmentalist, okay? But my feeling as a God-fearing environmentalist is that this doesn't belong to me. I am a steward of what God has created, okay? And so therefore, when I'm thinking about doing what it is that I'm doing in nature, whether I'm cutting down trees, or whether I'm killing insects, or whether I'm going camping in the woods, okay, I need to be mindful of the fact that this does not belong to me, that this belongs to God. And it is given to humans to use, but it is given in the role of stewardship, okay? So we need to be careful about the resources we use, just as God would instruct us to be mindful of those things. We need to be careful about, when we're fooling around with viruses, things like that, okay? We need to be careful. And now, the environmentalists may also say that we need to be careful, but if he's secular, he just says, well, it's all here, and I guess we got to take care of it because we're the only smart ones out there, and so therefore we have to protect the pomegranates and the piping plovers. So the message is much deeper to the follower of Christ. The message is you need to be responsible, but also you're allowed to use these resources. You don't have to leave the oil in the ground and have everybody freeze to death, right? You can use the oil. It's there. Just be responsible with it, okay? So again, we're almost at the 15-minute mark. So we're going to leave that for today. And I say to you, yes, we're still stuck in Genesis 1. A lot more to say there. But number 2, Vita brevis gloria aeterna. Life is short and glory is eternal. Have a great day, and God bless.